Alright, so today we're going to show you how to unwrap your Trailcraft bike and get it set up so you can take it straight from the box all the way to the trails and start ripping as soon as possible. So the first thing you're going to want to do here is remove the cardboard box at the bottom of the fork, and then just start taking off the wrapping of the fork. You can start cutting away at it like Brett here is doing. Just be careful not to cut the brake hoses or the shift housing, and then we'll move on to the next step. And the next thing you're going to want to do here is take off this orange plastic brake pad spreader so that your rotor can slide into the caliper. So now you're just going to take some scissors and cut the wrapping that's holding the handlebar onto the frame. Go ahead and cut that off, and then you can start unwrapping the handlebar from the foam packaging there. And then you can just set it aside once you have it unwrapped, because we'll come back to it later. And then after you have this done, you're going to want to go ahead and just take the rest of the foam wrapping off the rest of the frame. So when we wrap the bikes, we turn the stem around to prevent it from hitting the front of the box. So your next step here is you're going to want to turn that guy around. And Brett just showed you T20 bit, which he's using to loosen the bolts that clamp the stem onto the steer tube. Now some of our bikes have T20 bits like this one here, and other ones have 4mm Allen wrenches on the stems. So it's best to just have both of them just to be prepared. So go ahead and flip that guy around, and then you're going to want to loosen the other bolts that clamp the stem onto the handlebar, and go ahead and insert the handlebar into the stem. And then our next step here is to start putting the levers on, and Brett is showing you that this is the bike that has a dropper, and our dropper levers have 3mm Allen bolts. So go ahead and loosen that guy quite a bit so you can slide it on easily onto the handlebar. And then you can go ahead and put the shifting lever and the two brake levers onto the handlebar. Another thing to note here is sometimes the cables may be a little bit too short to stretch onto the handlebar, so what you can do is kind of loosen the handlebar from the stem a little bit and slide it to one side so it creates a little bit more room for the cable to slide on there. Cool, so now we're ready to take out that plastic protector at the bottom of the fork that is hanging in the dropouts. So go ahead and take that guy out, because you're now ready to start unwrapping the wheel so you can put it in the fork. So here Brett is about to start unwrapping the fork, and he's just going to grab some scissors to cut that wrapping off of there. And so here's some tricky notes here. So that note there, please be aware of that, because this plastic protector that he's pulling out right now, a lot of the times we have those end caps pull out with those plastic protectors. Happens on both sides, so please be aware of that, and make sure, if this happens, don't throw away the packaging. So just keep that in mind when you're unwrapping your wheel. So when you have both plastic protectors off, the whole wheel is unwrapped, you can take the skewer that should be in the cinch bag that we send with you at the bottom of the box. So take the lever, and you can insert it through the wheel, and then tighten it a little bit, and then you can put the wheel into the fork, tighten them up, and you should be almost ready to go. So the next thing here is to install the pedals, so go ahead and grab them out of the cinch bag. So what Brett here is showing you is there's 3 vertical lines, and those marks on the spindle of the pedal indicate that it is the non-drive side pedal, and the pedal with no marks on it is the drive side pedal. So go ahead and grab those and install them on the correct side. You can see Brett here is grabbing some grease, so if you have some grease, go ahead and grab it and just dab it on the threads of them. And a quick pro tip is to back pedal to get the pedals on there. Just makes it a little bit easier. So once you have the pedals into the cranks, right here is taking a 6mm Allen key. You can also use a pedal wrench and make sure to fasten those pedals in there so that they don't fall out when you're spinning away. So now we're getting the grips. That should also be in the cinch bag. So you get them and take the packaging out. And those are the end caps that go on the end of the handlebar and of the grips. These grips have 3mm Allen keys. So go ahead and get your 3mm and loosen each one of those sides up. It's about a turn and a half you want on each side, just about to loosen them up a little bit. So put the grips on the handlebar. You might have to squeeze them on there, work them on there a little bit, like Brett is doing here. Just make sure that the end of the grip is lining up with the end of the handlebar. So once you have that, take the end cap and you want to insert it into the handlebar. Make sure that end cap is all the way in there, and that the end of the grip meets that end cap. And so now you can take your 3mm Allen key and fasten those grips onto the handlebar, and make sure they're tight, so you don't want them sliding all over the handlebar when you're riding. So just putting some finishing touches up on this bike. Right here is adjusting the levers. So some of our brake levers have 4mm Allen keys, some of them have 5. In this case, Brad has a 4. And he's just tightening up that brake lever. And it's just personal preference on how far away the lever clamp is away from the grip, just whatever feels most comfortable. So just kind of mess around with that and see what feels good and tighten them up. And then a little side note on our dropper levers, they are only supposed to be torqued to 3 Newton meters, so please don't spec them past that or else they will snap off. So just be careful of that. So now after you have gotten the brake levers and shifter levers where you want them, where they feel most comfortable, you're going to want to take the T20 bit again and tighten up the stem bolts, just to put the last finishing touch up on here. And these bolts are spec to 5 Newton meters, so try not to go past that, but make sure that they will clamp on to the steer tube and to the handlebar. So another thing to note here is the brake lever reach adjustment, and this is especially important for smaller kids with little hands. All of our brake models have reach adjustments, and some require either a 2mm or 2.5mm Allen wrench. Just depends on the build level. So just go ahead and tune that to whatever feels most comfortable. And there you go, you are done and ready to take your bike out and rip away on the trails. Have fun.